Welcome to another live broadcast. I'm Len Topic, the Chair of Parliament of Asgardia, and we are having an exciting morning, evening, or night time, depending where you are in the world, as we watch an historic moment for Asgardia. The first landing on another celestial body with Asgardia's national symbols, Antimat as well. We will talk about who we have to thank for this in a few minutes' time. But first, let me introduce you to the Prime Minister. That's Lena de Winner. Greetings, Lena. It's a little bit later where you are. It's 7 o'clock on the dot here in the United Kingdom, Greenwich Mean Time. What time is it where you are?
Good morning. Also morning for me. Good morning, Lambert. It's 10 where I am. I'm in Moscow. So greetings, everyone who is watching us. Greetings, colleagues who joined us today. A few members of Asgardian Parliament and government are online with you today to celebrate this historic occasion. And yes, we start by expressing our gratitude and appreciation to what is happening right now. First of all, of course, we need to say great thank you to Dr. Igor Ashurbeli, who is the founder and the head of nation of Asgardia, which is the first in the world history space nation. It was founded on the 12th of October 2016, and since it achieved a lot of things we will be discussing through our event today. But special thanks today goes to the Minister of Culture of Asgardia, Cheryl Gallagher. You will be hearing from her shortly. Also, she is the one who masterminded and implemented this glorious project. Lambert?
Yeah, thanks very much. And let me tell you, you're watching this live. It's not particularly scripted. It'll probably really follow the developments. I've already seen some very exciting pictures on the media of the Firefly project. But first things first, just in case you haven't heard of Asgardia before, we are the world's first space nation. What does that mean? It means that we have realized, thanks to Dr. Asher Bailey, that we have to have some kind of a societal structure for when humanity moves to space. And that move is a certainty, really. But we're the only people who are really putting together a proper established plan for how that society may work. It also means that we are the world's first fully functioning digital democracy. We have a parliament, a government, we have residents, and we have many, many followers too. So just at the outset, if you're interested in what we're doing, then do go to Asgardia Space Nation. That's all you have to put in. Any search engine will then take you directly to our site. So that's quite exciting. And also, just one other thing, we will be on air now for quite a while with hopefully at least one special guest. I'll talk about him in just a minute. Now, here's the big picture. The big picture is that some weeks ago, a private space venture launched a spacecraft to go to the moon. And now we are watching to see if and where this spacecraft will land on the moon. I won't go into the details of that. I think there are others who are in a better position to talk about the details because, as Lena said, Cheryl Gallagher has been really heavily involved in this process. But now to that special guest, I'm hoping that the chief executive of the British Interplanetary Society might be joining us as well. Not absolutely guaranteed. He's at a space convention himself, but he said he would try and join us sometime in the next hour or two if he's available. So if he does, then we will invite him to speak. The British Interplanetary Society is the world's longest standing space group, if you like, space society. Right back in 1933, they realized we had to have some kind of structure, some kind of vision for space, including for that society. So there's a lot in common between us and the BIS. Indeed, I'm lucky to live only about 25 kilometers from their world headquarters. I did give a talk there sometime. So let's see if Simon Feast will be able to join us too, and he can tell us a bit about what they do and why they're so interested in what Asgardia is doing too. I think probably the best thing to do is to invite, and just one other thing, you'll be hearing from various people in Asgardia, mainly ministers of the government. There are 12 government minister positions, and also there are 12 chairs of various committees, but 150 maximum members of that parliament. So you'll hear from various people today, not just from me. Also, we'll be talking with each other and throwing, as the technical phrase is called, but shifting to NASA's stream as well. They always have some pretty interesting live streaming as well. So we'll see what's happening, and we'll go to that as and when it's necessary and interesting to do so. Since this is live, we can't predict exactly what's going to happen, and we can't exactly predict the time, but we expect that landing to be in about 90 minutes. But we will go to other feeds, as they're called, in the interim period. Lane, anything I've missed there before we talk to Cheryl? In fact, you might want to introduce Cheryl because she's one of the stars of the day.
Absolutely, and I'm so proud that Cheryl is a member of the cabinet, which I am honored to be in charge of in this term. So, indeed, this whole project was contemplated, conceived, masterminded, you call it what you wanted, but basically the person behind our meeting today and all the work which led up to it is the Minister of Culture of Asgardia, Cheryl Gallagher. And without further ado, I suggest that Cheryl just shares with us the background, what happened, and how did we arrive at this point today. Cheryl, please, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. It's a long time coming to this very special day. I can't believe it's finally happening. It's always been important to us in Asgardia to collaborate with our with other space initiatives as we go through the development of our own systems and develop our technologies and et cetera. And a couple of the commercial interests that are coming in that are part of this mission are included with all the scientific experiments that are conveying to the moon on the Blue Ghost 1 lander. And one of those companies is LifeShip, who has a special pyramid time capsule mounted on the Blue Ghost lander vehicle. And through LifeShip and Copernic Space, who also had payload space on the Blue Ghost lander, they offered, through the development of our relationships over the years, offered some space for the, to contribute to the project. And I was very, very happy to take up that offer and was able to offer and upload a copy of our institution, the coat of arms, and the flag to convey with the other cultural elements that are going along in the special time capsule. It's reported to be lasting about, many, many decades, centuries, millennia, possibly even more, depending on the successful, the successful radiation protection. But I'm assured that because of the unique structure of that pyramid, you can take a look at that if the audience is interested at lifeship.com. That in some time in the future, archaeologists will come and explore and find us after so many years. So this is really truly a historic evening to have this opportunity.
It's great.
Thank you. Thank you
Sorry.
very much, Cheryl. And indeed, as we all have heard, Asgardia, in its symbolic and real strive to preserve humanity for eternity, is reaching out literally to the moon today. But Asgardia has its own scientific program, and the core mission of Asgardia is the birth of the first human child in space. Sooner or later, due to our misfortunes or misbehavior, or just due to the evolution of the universe, the planet Earth might be unlivable, physically unlivable for the human beings. But that's why Asgardia is working to achieve possibility to live in the universe, on the other celestial body, on the space stations. And in order to achieve the birth of the first human child in space that would lay the foundation to procreation and living outside of the boundaries of the planet Earth, Asgardia has three core scientific goals, three areas of research that would allow to achieve this goal. And one of them is work on artificial gravitation. The other is protection from space radiation. Cheryl mentioned that already. The unmanned capsules are collecting radiation and scientists are analyzing the data. And human embryology, because of course, still humans, females give birth to other humans. And that is why Asgardia is very seriously working in these areas under the leadership of the Minister of Science, Professor Dr. Floris Woutz, and Professor Dr. Lucas Ariso Valvo. And I would be asking to hear from these two distinguished professors and I will be asking them to talk about the core missions and scientific areas of deliberation of Asgardia. So Floris, please, the floor is now all yours. The core mission is the birth of the first human child.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Yes, indeed. A nation without science is not really apt to survive. So we have indeed to invest quite a lot of energy in science, because then we can advance. Now, the science of embryology is tremendously complicated, because although we have evolved for millions of years on Earth, that was under conditions of gravity. So going to space without gravity, well, there is gravity in low Earth orbit, like for the space stations, but since they are continuously falling next to the Earth, the whole spaceship is actually does not really feel the gravity. So bottom line is weightlessness, and how would life gestate in the womb? A baby would gestate, a fetus would gestate in the womb of a baby, of a mother, without gravity. So that is quite a very challenging thing. That's why we need the other part to make this happen in a way that is feasible, that is doable, and that is livable. And that is artificial gravity. So if you combine artificial gravity with embryology, then you can go steps ahead to still create an environment, even in space, to have a life and to create life in a way that we are familiar to it on Earth. So that's why the efforts are going to how are we surviving, how are we enduring artificial gravity. So therefore there are experiments where people are being, for instance, rotated on a centrifuge for a while and see how they are reacting to that, how they are, how their physiological functions is being preserved, how it's being perhaps altered, so that we can deduct the appropriate information from that, so that eventually when we have to launch a vehicle in space, that we know what is the level of gravity which is necessary to make it all possible, livable, and indeed also to create life in space. It has not, it's per se, it should not perhaps be 1G. The fact that, you know, in the womb of a woman, baby is also for many times is upside down. So that is not per se what you would say, okay, life is evolving when we are standing up. No, babies, if for a long time upside down in the womb, and still, I mean, that's how life has evolved. So there are some things which we have to really study securely, to find out, okay, what is necessary to do that. Obviously, embryology by itself is also complicated, and therefore there is this experiment, a serious experiment, which has been ongoing at the Institute of Biomedical Problems, which is actually in accordance with isolation. And so the Dr. Orlova has been our Asgardian, who was for quite a while in this environment of isolation, also to investigate again what is happening to the female body under circumstances of isolation, for prolonged isolation for many hundreds of days, so that we can study, okay, what does this do with the human body? And then the third pillar, obviously, is radiation. I mean, it's all very clear that radiation has a tremendously high impact on human life. Luckily, within the when we are still in low Earth orbit, I mean, spacecraft in low Earth orbit, they are in the Van Allen belt, which is the magnetic field of the Earth, and that magnetic field of the Earth protects against outer radiation from deep space, and also in most cases from solar flares. But when it's too hard, they still have to kind of like seek protection. But let's say low Earth orbit is still in a habitable area because of the radiation, which is fairly under control, given the appropriate protection. Going to the moon, obviously, is a bit more, is quite more complicated, because on the moon there is much more radiation, not to talk about Mars, because then there is even much more radiation. So I think the first step of Asgardia is definitely not to go immediately beyond, but really to do step by step. And then low Earth orbit, so a couple of 100 kilometers, like the International Space Station is at 400 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. That is the first areas where or the space where we want to thrive. I am happy to answer further questions, but perhaps I will now give the words to Dr. Luca from the Parliament, from the Science Committee in the Parliament, to add more information to this, what I just told.
Luca.
Hello. Thank you, Floris. Good day, everyone. This is Lucas Risovaldo. I'm the chair of the Science Committee of the Parliament of Asgardia. And I'm myself a scientist, and actually I work in a field which is related to some of the areas in which Asgardia is engaged. I work in space physics, and studying the near-Earth environment is one of my everyday job tasks, and not specifically related to radiation protection, but what I do study is the system that allows the protection, the natural protection that we have on Earth, which is the magnetosphere, and the way this interacts with the space, the solar wind, or the radiation coming from space. And I think, yes, this is a very complicated matter, because radiation will be there no matter what, and we need to find ways to protect from radiation, because we all know that radiation is damaging, of course, living matter, like cells or any other system, a living system. So yeah, it's a challenge, of course, and we will have to develop some specific program to work on that field, as well as together with the microgravity and the embryo development that we have as major goals for Asgardia. I maybe to say that this space mission on the moon is equipped with some instrumentation that has to deal with the radiation issues. In some sense, there are at least 2 of the scientific payload are dedicated to that in different ways. So maybe we can talk about that later if you wish me to. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you have other questions. Otherwise, just let me know.
Where are you?
I'm located in Uppsala in Sweden right now. I'm working with a Swedish Space Physics Institute, which is this logo here. This is where I'm working right now. But yeah, I spend my time half here, half in Italy, where I also work to the Institute for Space for Plasma Technology. So yeah, it's I'm bilocated in two places usually. Today it's Sweden.
You're an international jet setter.
Not jet setter, but definitely international. Yeah, a gypsy would be a better word for it, maybe. But
The space
Or we
cowboy.
have,
Sorry,
or
go on.
we have one of the leading scientists of Asgardia in superposition.
Absolutely.
In two places at the same time, but we are not quite sure where. So we
exactly.
can argue if it's a superposition or a Schrödinger scientist.
It's an electron scientist, let's say. Yes.
Electron scientist. Okay.
These are very nerdy jokes, but yes, it's appropriate in this context.
Well,
Wow.
you say nerdy like it's a criticism. I've
No,
loved
it's
space
not.
since I was 12. It's a great thing. I'd much rather you were involved in space than all kinds of terrible things human beings do. Space is good, so
So far, yes.
I definitely want you on my spacecraft if anything goes wrong with a toolbox. Just very quickly, as I say, it's fairly free ranging. Lena, I think that it might be useful if Cheryl Gallagher tells us what's on the spacecraft, Cheryl. And you got a picture as well, I think you might want to share. Is that okay, Cheryl? I don't want to suddenly shock you into talking about it if you're not ready.
Not at all. Not at all. I was just looking at some, there are a lot of people, I want to make sure that I'm very grateful to the people that have come together to work with me on this project. I thank you so much for the gracious compliments about work, but I wouldn't be able to do it at all without the support of my colleagues and the people. I'm very grateful to the people who participated, including Benedetto Professo and Ria Dell, who developed the mission patch that you see to the right in the corner. And I just recently got back from the celebration of the launch at Cape Canaveral, and that was hosted by Copernic Space, who is technically our actual host for our ride to the moon. And I have a couple of pictures to share of that experience, and I just have to get those lined up here. And then also I want to also honor and respect my colleague in Parliament, my cohort, the chair of the Culture Committee, Ugur Aydin, and he has been very creative in this process. One of the images that went along with our documents was a character that he's creating that of his superhero character that he's designing for children, and that is still in the process of development. A character named Raiden, and I can remember in Baku that he brought a very special rendition of that and thing. So, if you could just give talk for a couple of minutes.
I wanted to
line up a
introduce.
couple of photos to introduce our audience to what I'm talking about. That would be great.
Absolutely. I just want to introduce Sarah Clark, who I have to introduce her in case she falls asleep because she's in Texas. She's right down there in Dallas, not far from the Firefly headquarters, actually. Sarah, thanks very much for joining us. What time is it where you are? It's probably just after, I don't know, after 1.
It is. It's 1:24. I believe I may be sharing a time zone with Cheryl, so it is a bit early.
But you're here. And you don't look
Yeah.
tired, which is great. That's one of the amazing things about our system. And for those who aren't familiar, we have these meetings every week, actually. And you get used to it. You get used to the idea of somebody having to stay up late, someone having to get up early. But it is very exciting in that sense. Just before, I want to ask you a little bit about the eclipse just before we go further. Just to let you know, I'm watching the live feed. And the spacecraft we're interested in is 100, I think about 106 kilometers above the lunar surface and orbiting at about 5,900 kilometers per hour, apparently. But Sarah, just briefly, we last physically met where on another celestial occasion where you very kindly organized a solar eclipse in Dallas. That went quite well. I was very grateful because you actually organized the skies to clear at just the right moment. Now, that's pretty powerful stuff. What were your fondest memories of our visit then? Another celebration of Asgardia coming together.
Well, I am sorry I could not arrange a lunar eclipse to celebrate your birthday this evening, so I'm very, very sorry about that. I'll do better next time. Um, the solar eclipse was, I'll be honest, like they said, oh, there's going to be a solar eclipse, and I was like, oh yeah, that's great. But the moment when it happened and everything went dark and just everything around us went silent, and they had told us that this would happen. But I was like, it happened, what, like 100 years ago when there wasn't as much, commotion and as many distractions. But the moment everything went dark, I think everybody that I've spoken to that had the opportunity to experience the eclipse really felt the same thing. There was just a gravitas and it was a monumental moment, as cliche as that sounds. But no, the moon completely covered the sun and it was dark during the day. And it was very moving, which I didn't expect.
What I found most remarkable was all the animals went quiet as they thought it was nighttime for a short while. And just, I've never seen a full eclipse without cloud. I've seen one other total eclipse. It was in the UK. It was short and it was cloudy this time. It was really quite something. And I salute you because you really organized that very large meeting in the park. It was totally memorable. I hope to come back to see you sometime in the not too distant future. Breaking news, we've got Simon Feast with us now. I'm glad to say there he is. Simon Feast from the British Interplanetary Society joins us. What an honour. Thank you, Simon. Just to explain, you're with some of the great people from Asgardia, the world's first space nation. We're all on the Earth. Don't panic, you didn't miss the flight. You're at a convention this weekend yourself, aren't you, Simon? You have to unmute yourself, schoolboy error.
There we go. Okay. Good morning,
Good
everybody.
morning.
Yeah, good morning, Lambert, and happy birthday to you. And
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation for joining. Yes, it's great to be on the call here. I'm over in Leicester in the UK at the moment. We're at a student conference, the UK SEDS, which are the UK students for the exploration and development of space, have an annual conference where every student branch meets up each year, and they sort of look to see how they can work together and work with industry who also attend. It's really quite interesting. But we've been here yesterday and today, so that's a big sort of goal for us, is to connect with the student community as well. So.
I'm not sure many of them will be up at this time in the morning, but
Almost
apologies if you had
certainly
some great meetings there. I salute your self-restraint at a student conference that you're able to get up this early. Do you want to tell people a little bit about what you do in the British Interplanetary Society and why the BIS exists? I gave a brief intro before to say it's the longest standing interplanetary society on Earth.
Yeah, okay. It's so I'm the CEO. I run the office there, but most of my job really is sort of connecting with the staff, the members, and the trustees, and making sure that everybody's happy. And so we are a membership organization. For anybody who's serious about space, it's there to connect professionals and enthusiasts alike. And I think we touch on quite a few different areas, really. We look at sort of all aspects, whether it's sort of, I would say mostly astronautics, which is about the sort of getting into space and what we do when we're there. But our members also have a lot of interest in, what comes beyond in terms of future developments. And of course, a lot of people are interested in astronomy as well. So the origins of the society really came about pre-space flight in the 1930s. We were founded in Liverpool in the UK in 1933. And this was a group of people who were really interested in the prospect of getting into space and the idea of satellites and going to the moon. And the membership back then set about on a study to look at the first real serious study of how we would get to the moon. They were looking at the lunar ship design, spacesuit designs, and planetary bases in quite a lot of detail. It's astonishing, really, because they were working with the ideas and technologies that they had available to them at the time. So these were sort of tradespeople of the day, and aviation was coming up as well. So there's a lot of interest there. So that was sort of a launching point that really grew the membership around that interest. But of course, back then, not everybody was that sort of serious about space. And this is all pre-space flight, as I say. So there was no reference mission, no existing sort of engine technology and things like that. So they were really kind of, you can see from the early sort of drawings and papers that they wrote, they were really having to sort of invent and innovate some of these things for the first time. I'm pleased to say that a lot of the designs were quite influential in the sort of reality of spaceflight that came about in the preceding decades, but in the following decades. So yeah, it's a fascinating journey. But today we still look to the future. So we're still thinking a little bit beyond the horizon of, say, typical commercial interests. So things like, the lunar infrastructure is still relevant and becoming more and more relevant now than it has been in the last, few decades, I suppose, especially with the advent of more commercial missions like what we're seeing today. And of course, there's, ambitions for human population in space and interplanetary missions. So the British Interplanetary Society is, hopefully, we've got a good position for the future still to come.
And that's where there's common cause. You very kindly allowed me to give a speech at the symposium, really, at the British Interplanetary Society headquarters. Oh, it must have been over a year ago now. It seems to me Asgardia and the British Interplanetary Society have quite a lot in common, Simon.
Yeah, what I find uniquely fascinating about Asgardia is a lot of people tend to look at, in particular, the sort of technologies, as I say, the astronautic side of how we're going to live and operate in space. But what I like about Asgardia is you're looking at the broader sort of ideas around how humanity can operate in terms of society um, and in the idea of living off world is something that people don't tend to get into the societal side of it, and I think that's very important. So yeah, and I think for us, a lot of our members, I think, are very much interested in that, in the sort of socio-politics, the ethics, the especially in some areas, we've looked at multi-generation living in space. So things like interstellar travel have come up in the past, and we've looked at propulsion systems and spacecraft for that. But also the topic, always the interesting bits are always when people say, well, what about multiple generations, and how do we manage our resources, and how do we continue on a growth path in space? So I think Asgardia is looking at a very important angle on that.
Grateful for what hopefully will be increasing collaboration between Asgardia and the British Interplanetary Society, and who knows, maybe a joint mission at some point as well, Simon.
Great. Yeah.
I also have to recommend your headquarters. You have all kinds of bits of space junk there. Stuff that has gone into space. Just before we go back to the team here, who may want to ask you some questions. I know, Cheryl, you're on standby, but I was just very pleased to see Simon coming in. What's your favorite bit of space paraphernalia at the headquarters, if you have one?
Well, I think we've got a few things like bits of hardware. That's all interesting. for me, it's probably in our archives. It's either got to be our photo archive, which goes back, a long way. And there's a lot of things which actually I'd like to challenge people to identify because they're quite hard um, to pin down. But I think for me, it's got to be the original artworks for the lunar mission that I mentioned. One of our early members, Ralph Smith. He was a technical illustrator and a fantastic artist. And for me, these days, you see so many computer-generated models and animations which really bring things to life. And at the time that they were doing that study, they didn't have those sorts of tools available to them. So there's some absolutely incredible artworks. I urge you to sort of look them up. Ralph Smith, but we have all of the originals at our building, and many of them framed on the wall of our council room. And to me, that was a really important step to sort of bring. Our motto is from imagination to reality, and I think that was so crucial to creating that sort of sense of reality where you actually visualize what the moon mission would look like. And interestingly, even though we hadn't really flown much to space back then, I think he got a lot of the perspectives and ideas quite spot on, and they're beautiful pieces of art. And that's a big thing that we're looking to do, sort of reinvigorate the imagination side over the next couple of years. So we're drawing upon ideas from space art, science fiction, and just general culture, and see how that helps drive our ideas for space in the coming decade. But that's it. Yeah.
That's a perfect springboard to go back to Cheryl. Do stay with us as long as you can. I'm not sure if you're able to stay for the landing, but I hope you can, which should be in just about almost exactly an hour from now. But if you have to go, just let me know so that I don't ask you to come in. But we're going to stay for the landing. You talked about art, and we've got our Minister for Arts here, who's been working with the Chair of Art. That's Cheryl Gallagher. Cheryl, I'm not sure if you've now got the picture. But incidentally, after this, if people want to ask questions or make comments to Simon Feast, that would be really great. And I'm hoping to convince you to address one of our digital parliamentary sittings as well later on this year. But Cheryl, Simon talked about art. You do art, and you might have an artistic picture of some of us.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. I had the privilege of also being able to send a portfolio of my art in the LifeShip cultural aspect of the project, and likewise with Copernic Space, was able to send some space art that will end up becoming tokenized and become part of, the blockchain and the democratization of the space economy. And so really the whole experience that I've had through the course of this year working with project has really been a joy, really, a very fascinating, a huge learning experience. And I really enjoy the fact that along with this, the very strong and serious and important science that's going on to be able to establish us in space, that we aren't forgetting our human heritage and our dedication to our home planet. So if I could share my screen
just
for a
before you
moment,
do, it just occurs to me, you're coming to the United Kingdom quite soon. I'm not sure, Simon, it might be worth us having an informal meeting at the British Interplanetary Society, given what you said, Simon, and given what Cheryl does. Do you think that would be feasible if everyone's available?
Yeah, that'd be fabulous. Yeah. If there's a convenient time, very much welcome that. Yeah.
There we are. That's a done deal then. I'm going to bank that as a definite. Gives me an excuse to look at the space stuff then. Who knows? Cheryl might be able to leave something there as well. perhaps even something from this mission. But Cheryl, that's great. So we'll work that out offline then. That's fantastic. Before we open it up to maybe a few questions for you, Simon, as well.
Sure.
I'm watching, incidentally, while we're doing this, the live feed from NASA. So I'll let our team tell us when if we need to go across to that live feed, and it could break in at any time. The spacecraft still in orbit, hasn't started its descent yet, I don't think. But Cheryl, back to you. And after that, maybe back to
Right,
Lena
thank
as
you.
well.
Yes, and do just break in, obviously, when the big event starts happening. But I'm just going to share a couple of photos, nothing too formal. Here we go. Let me know that you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it. Fine.
Fantastic. Okay, you heard me mention earlier my cohort in Parliament, Ugur Aydin. Here he is with his recently published book, and you can't really see him very clearly, but his little character is there in the front, and a image of his character Raiden accompanied the assets to in the same packet with my art and with the state assets of Asgardia. And so kudos, and I'm grateful for his presence and his creative spirit in our group. As I mentioned recently, Copernic Space held a gala at Kennedy Space Center, along with a number of their investors and other artists and contributors to the project. I was privileged to be invited to go. And this is just a quick shot of the banquet hall. You can't really see it in this view, but we are directly under the space shuttle Atlantis that's suspended overhead. And so it was really quite exciting to be there for that. And I realized when putting all this together that the last time I'd been to Kennedy Space Center, it was for before the first space shuttle launch, so really quite a long time ago. And to be there at this time, able to contribute to the future of space exploration in this small cultural way, and likewise in an important way for the nation of Asgardia, and representing Asgardia at this event was really a huge, unbelievable privilege, really. And that is the CEO of Copernic Space right there. That is Grant Blaisdell. He and his mother have spearheaded this whole project, and so it was great to see him there. I was looking for my pictures. I also wanted to acknowledge Ben Haldeman of LifeShip. I couldn't find a picture of him quickly enough, but he and Grant have both done some nice interviews with me that you can be found on the YouTube Asgardia as the Asgardia YouTube channel. If you care to hear more about their projects, they are both ongoing with other space time capsules, other initiatives, and other projects in upcoming launches. And so I'd like to encourage the audience to explore those things, because you too can participate in a lunar landing in the future if you so choose. So anyway, those are my pictures to share. I'll stop the share right now, and it's been excellent working with other people on this project. Oh, I do have one more picture I was going to show from that series. Let me just quickly share the next slide. I would love to do that. Hold on just one second. Let's get it back. There we go. The people that we see here, it's amazing who you run into at these sort of events. And so I was able to meet this dramatic looking gentleman on the left here, who's pointing at the space shuttle fueling tanks that we were standing near. He's one of the CEO and manager of the Icelandic Space Agency, and had quite a lengthy conversation with him. In the forefront there, that is Mike Mongo. He's a trained civilian astronaut with Blue Origin. Obviously, I'm there. And then this picture has Dr. Alex Leyendecker of the Astronautical Space Research Institute. And so
that's a fun bunch.
I think I got that right. And so that is one of the great benefits of being able to participate in initiatives like this, is being able to spend a good amount of time along with everybody else, all the other ministers, especially the Minister of Science, interacting and collaborating in order to be able to achieve this goal together as a international collaborative effort to solve the problems that we face in trying to get these human bodies to work at all in the hostile environment of space. And so I've been very grateful for being able to participate at this level. So that's it for pictures. That really is.
Thanks, Cheryl. That's just fantastic. The way we'll do this, I'll pass over to Lena now. I've had a good run with Simon and so forth. If people do have questions, just feel free to either raise your hand or get involved. I suppose it's probably a little bit more efficient if we have people raising hands. Do stay with us, Simon, if you can as well. I think we're about 40 minutes or 45 minutes, something like that, maybe, to the actual touchdown. The spacecraft is beginning to go down, as far as I can see. It's beginning to change its altitude, but it might simply just be the ellipticity of the orbit. I can't tell for sure. Lena, back to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to Simon for joining us. It's a pleasure to have such an honorable guest in our live event today. I would like also to ask Jennifer Gligorich, who is the Minister of Equity and Resources, to share with everybody what she is doing in the Second Life. There is Asgardia in the Second Life. We are the fully-fledged digital nation, so we are also present in various digital environments. Jennifer, please go ahead.
Okay, well, yes, we are live tonight in Second Life at the Asgardia in Second Life, and I've posted the slurl, which is what you call the SLURL, in our Asgardian Discord and basically everywhere. And we had a DJ tonight, an incredible DJ Dion, who spun great tunes. We set up a dance floor. I'll have pictures of this. And we had greeters that came in, and we have a couple of people now. It's a little bit late, for the people who would watch that, but we have about 5 people there now, and we're sitting on these really great benches in front of a digital theater that we put up. And like all things, it's just a lot of fun. So I'm learning a lot about people. So the DJ is a really big space enthusiast. And she is just absolutely incredible, and she's fun. And then we have other people there, including a couple of Asgardians who found us on the Discord, who came in and logged in. So it's really great to have a digital world where it doesn't matter where we are in the planet, and we can come together and be together. So if you go to Second Life, to our embassy, you'll be able to see our real life pictures. You'll be able to walk in. We have digital books that you can browse, or you can even download, that tell you about our history. And there's just a lot of cool stuff about science. We have interactive displays. We have an entire moon base, with a moon living capsule there where you can sit down and do all sorts of fun stuff in. Right now I have a thing called a Sploder. So it has Linden money in it. So I loaded it up full of cash, And now every 10 minutes it explodes with cash for the people who click on it. So there's a lot of people thinking that's fun up in the moon right now. I think there's 3 or 4 just sitting there clicking and getting their cash. But we're excited about this. We're excited about the moon landing. It's this is history in the making. And we are forward thinkers. So we're in the real world, we're in this sort of video Zoom world, we're in the digital world, and now we're in space. So I am very excited about it. And there's a lot of people in all their iterations that are excited about it. And I'm even wearing the hair. This is my normal hair because it is Mardi Gras here in Galveston. And so I thought if we're going to space, I'm going to have space hair. So that's what we're doing. We are being excited. And tomorrow I will go back to my blonde and gray normal hair. But for tonight or this morning, this is what it's going to be. I don't know.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. So those of you who are in the second life, please come and visit us in the second life in Asgardia. You know now who is the host there. So when you come in, you have even seen the person who runs it. So you would meet her not only as a character, but you already have met her live. Well, as live as it gets this day and age, of course.
That's right. That's right. Yes, come on in.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. So next, I would like to ask Dan Profir, our Minister of Youth and Education, to say a few words. Dan has launched a very successful podcast, which allows you, our viewers and readers and followers, to get to know new things from the experts who talk to Dan in the most popular language about their areas of expertise. Dan, please go ahead.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Prime Minister, for offering me the opportunity to say a few words about this podcast. So my name is Dan Profir. I am the Minister of Youth and Education in the government of Asgardia. I am also a podcaster for Asgardia Space Nation TV, where I'm hosting a bi-monthly podcast titled Highway to Space. Now, this is set to explore the cutting-edge developments in astronautics. The podcast features world-renowned experts in astronautics and related fields, making it an essential watch for anyone eager to delve into the future of space exploration, its rich traditions and current challenges. And I would like to convey you all to follow us on Asgardia Space Nation TV on our YouTube channel. But also we are also present on Asgardia.space, the website, the official website of our Space Nation. The podcast is divided into 30 minutes pre-recorded episodes. And our guests are attending either online by Zoom or in person in our studios in Bucharest. So please watch us every Tuesday. We are coming out with a new release. One is the announcement of the episode, and the next one is the episode itself. We have so far 13 episodes recorded. So, people, as I said, astronauts, cosmonauts, but also people who are doing normal jobs, I would say, not necessarily space related, but also space related, like space lawyers, like space artists. Cheryl was featured in one of our episodes. So I'd be glad to use this opportunity to actually convey you all to watch us, like us, and share us, and spread the good word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. So, dear viewers, please visit us at asgardia.space, and you will find at the top of the page a rolling line of boxes with the news. One of them is the landing page to Asgardia Space Nation television. And we will be soon rebranding into the ASN, Asgardia Space Nation ASN TV. You have the chance to be the first ones to see the pilot episodes. And we're already at a stage where we will stop calling them pilots soon. We are doing very well in achieving the mass of the production, all thanks to the initiative and the skills of Dan Profir. I would now like to ask Jakob Mulder, Minister of Manufacturing in the government of Asgardia, to say a few words about his experience and his excitement about what's going on right now. Jakob, please.
Yes, hello, thank you. And hello, everybody. I'm Jakob Mulder. I'm Minister of Manufacturing in Asgardia. I'm excited that we all are here in this very special event. It's one of the many steps towards preparing humanity for living and working in space. Other steps are, for example, the Asgardia Institute of Standards and the Asgardia Project Coordination Institute, and two initiatives of my ministry. And we all are co-creating the future here. One humanity, one unity, which is the abbreviation of Asgardia Standards greeting, OHO.
Well, since you mentioned OHO, I have to say that actually Ivan Russell, who is the Minister of Citizenship in the government of Asgardia, is the one who introduced this term. And so Ivan doesn't have a contribution into this meeting today, but I suggest we'll give him a round of digital applause. Actually, it's the term offered by Ivan and by now, I don't know actually if everyone is aware of that. It became part of our terminology, which everybody is using. But it's important to know our history, and these small but very meaningful things, I think, for me personally, are very important and very sentimental parts of our history. I also would like to ask Floris to say a few more words, because actually in his day life, Floris, amongst his other numerous achievements, is the head of the Laboratory of Artificial Gravity in the University of Antwerp in Belgium. So Floris, amongst other very prominent skills, is bringing his expertise and his knowledge to Asgardia in this particular domain. As we have mentioned already, Asgardia is working in three main areas in order to achieve its core goal, birth of the first human child in space. And it's about artificial gravity, space radiation protection, and human embryology. So actually, I suggest we take a few minutes and benefit from Floris's participation to learn a little bit more about artificial gravity. I personally have seen once how his equipment operates. I'm just scared, and I'm happy that experts are in charge. And I know Floris is a great popular lecturer, also not just a professor who teaches students and future physicists. So I suggest we benefit from his presence and his ability to speak layman language about things which otherwise are truly the rocket science.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for these kind words. Well, let's say I do have had and still have the unique honor and pleasure to have been testing. If I count, it's approximately more than 80 times I tested astronauts and cosmonauts, both from ESA and from Roscosmos, and actually NASA is upcoming because I'm also there involved in going to test before and after space flight how the astronauts, how are they reacting to weightlessness. And to be honest, it's not a walk in the park to say, because there are a lot of physiological characteristics, physiological changes actually, that are, at least to say, quite intriguing. One of the things, for instance, we found of, and I have to say that I'm pretty proud of that, is in 2009, I was actually the first scientist who thought of the idea, let's look at the brain of astronauts and what happens with the brain after spaceflight. Now, it's pretty bizarre that only 55 years after the first human spaceflight by Yuri Gagarin in 1961, that it took 55 years to come up, that scientists came up with an idea like, let's look at the brain. And I say 55 years because in 2016, we published indeed the very first paper on that to show scientifically what happened with the brain. As I say, it's quite bizarre because a lot of physiological parts of the human body have been investigated, being the muscle, being the bones, being heart, even the vestibular system, because let's say 80% of astronauts going to space have issues with space motion sickness. So that is it's an issue, but it goes away after a couple of days. So it's not so much an issue anymore. But the brain was never looked at. And one of the things which we found is indeed that due to the what we call the puffy face syndrome, the fact that when you go in space, there is a tremendous fluid shift of the liquid in your body upwards. So all the astronauts, if you look at pictures of astronauts, then you will see that compare a picture on Earth and a picture of the same person in space, that their head is much more round. Sometimes it is so incredibly changed that I had sometimes difficulties in recognizing the pictures of the cosmonauts and astronauts which I have been testing on Earth. I said, is this the same person? Because it's really very clear to see that. And that means that there is not only this puffy face syndrome, but actually also that their brain is being pushed up in the skull, with some effects anyhow on not on performance, etc. But let's say at least it is something which we have to look further, and particularly if people are going to live longer in space, what is going to happen if you accumulate these effects? Therefore, it is so crucial that to survive for a long time, that there has to be artificial gravity, because that will prevent them to have this accumulative effect of this fluid shift, which appears to be which can be perhaps deleterious. A very nice model is like many of you perhaps remember from the famous movie of Stanley Kubrick, Space Odyssey 2001, where they had this donut-shaped space station, which was a big rotating donut. So at the end, at the perimeter, there was gravity, but in the center was microgravity, no gravity. And I think that may be a very appropriate solution, because there you have both worlds. I mean, the world of microgravity, which is by itself very, well, let's say, attractive and interesting, because you really are you're floating, and that is a unique sensation, and I think it is very addictive. Once you are in space, you want to be back in space. That's what I think many astronauts will tell you. So, but on the other hand, in the donut itself, which is rotating, and if you rotate, you introduce artificial gravity. That's something which I have to say. A rotating device generates acceleration, and gravity is acceleration. So you know it just by a very easy example is if you take a quick corner or a turn with your car at some speed, you feel the outward force. Well, that is acceleration. And this acceleration indeed is being used as artificial gravity. So when we want to survive in space, we need this artificial gravity to make all the physiological phenomena better and more human-like, and more what we were apt to. Although I have to say that apparently from all the experiments which have been done in astronauts, that humanity appears to be quite adaptable to extreme environments. So that is a unique characteristic of our human body, that we are adaptable, that we adapt to these strange things. But again, there has to be a lot of science to be done further to find out if it is on the long term a good thing. I teach at least hours and hours of space physiology to my students in Antwerp, in in Leuven, in King's College in London, and MIT. So I'm happy to continue, but I don't want to take all the time. So I'll keep it here for this part, what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Floris. Actually, when you were talking about puffy faces, I wanted to join the discussion because, of course, that's something we don't think about on Earth. In general, rewind. When you want to study something as a scientist, how do you study it? You remove the impact from the equation, from the setup. So when you need to learn what is the purpose, what's the effect of something on something, you just need to do a different setting. And gravity affects all of us, people on Earth, things on Earth, plants on Earth, animals on Earth. And we don't know how, because when we're on Earth, we have no opportunity to remove gravity from any experiment on Earth. So space, lack of gravity in the space station, gives humans an opportunity actually to study gravity under which we all live on Earth. And so when we go into space, we actually get to experience ourselves as people in the lack of gravity, and we run experiments with objects in the lack of gravity. Something as simple as the shape of a water drop or shape of a flame will be different in the lack of gravity. And the same happens in human bodies. So what Floris explained in detail, basically, when you watch conferences of the ISS crews when they talk to people on Earth, you will see indeed that they are floating a little bit, their microphones are floating a little bit, and they're a little bit puffy because gravity does not pull your blood to your feet. And at the same time, the feet and the hands are cold. The average temperature on board the space station is 24 degrees Celsius. And on Earth, normally that would be quite comfortable. But there, people say that they wear woolen socks because their feet are cold, because your heart pumps the blood twice as hard in order to make the circulation works. On Earth, the gravity pulls it down and the heart only pumps it up. So the same with the bloated faces, because the liquid distribution in your body is somewhat different. And then it goes into the loss of bone density and all things, which are also so important for the life on Earth. So Floris, maybe actually you tell us a few more things. I just touched them as deep as I'm capable of, but maybe you tell us a few more things, how gravity is important to our life on Earth, to the human bodies, to our health, and how research in space helps to create procedures and develop medications which also help prevent aging, because in a way, staying in the lack of gravity is high-speed aging in terms of the decay of the body. Yes, being an astronaut is glamorous, but also it's very risky for your health.
Indeed. Well, to illustrate the essence of gravity, I have written together with Angel Ramos a very nice paper a couple of years ago where we looked at the gravity detector in living species on Earth. And actually, 670 million years ago, was the first gravity detector appearing on Earth. It was something like 400 million years before the other systems for rotation were, let's say, developed during nature and during evolution. And it was even something like 500 years before hearing. So one of the very first simple concepts of gravity detection is so old as 670 million years. I mean, just in species, in creatures on Earth, which means that indeed to know the direction of gravity pointing down, it is essential for everything which moves around on Earth. So it's not strange that when we lack this gravity, there are a few systems which are severely affected. And one of the main concerns at this moment of NASA and ESA particularly is called spaceflight associated neuroocular syndrome, because in 60 to 70% of astronauts who are going into space for long duration. And what is long duration? Typically 6 months. 6 months is chosen several years ago to stay on board of the space station because it mimics, for instance, also a flight going to Mars. So 6 months was a chosen period. Now, astronauts going to 6 months for 6 months in ISS, they experience indeed this puffy face syndrome, but also they have problems with their eyes. What is the problem with the eyes? It's because the pressure inside is so much that the globe of the eyeball is being flattened. So the back of your eyeball is being flattened, which means that astronauts need glasses in space where they didn't need it before. Now, there is typically not really an optician on board the ISS. There are some spare glasses indeed, because it's a phenomenon which has been already long time experienced, that there are the globe of the eyeball is indeed more round because every fluid is round in space because there is the lack of gravity. But the problem with the eyeball, which is flattened, is much more pronounced. And so there are indeed quite some astronauts who have to keep on wearing glasses after their spaceflight because of this spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome. One of the issues there, obviously, if your eyeball is flattened and you have an hyperopic shift, so you need glasses because you can't read the instruments, it is crucial because you want to land after quite a while when you go to Moon or you go to Mars, even longer, and you can't read the dials and you can't see, are we now 100 meters above the surface of Mars, or are we 10 meters? I mean, that is definitely a very big issue. And I guess that typically human attitude may be that the landing will be half automatic, half human. Because once you go a whole way to Mars, you don't want to just push a button and say, okay, now let's get the Mars lander land on Mars, and I'm just waiting in my chair. Humans, I think, do want to do the landing themselves, but they have to be able to perform. So as I say, performance, when that is hampered, it's a big issue. And therefore, one of the reasons could be, by the way, for the SANS, is the fact that all the astronauts have to train every day, several hours, to keep up their physiological performance. So they do a lot of training, like on a treadmill, typically, for the Russian part. But the American NASA astronauts, they are using ARED. ARED stands for Advanced Resistive Exercise Device. It's like weightlifting. It's like they go to the gym and they do the weightlifting all the time. Now, if you do weightlifting in space, it's a special device which is having some elastics, and so that they indeed generate a force where you have to push against. If you do that too hard, you induce Valsalva maneuvers. So like this. And that causes, perhaps, that's one of our main hypotheses, which is now being more and more taken seriously, that this accumulated Valsalva maneuvers, they increase the pressure more and more in the brain. And the Russian counterparts, the Russian cosmonauts, they have much less of problems with his eyes because they don't do so much ARED, they do treadmill. So that could be one of the reasons why it is much more pronounced from NASA and ESA side than from the Roscosmos side. And like real science, you learn from things which are not all the same. But when there's a deviation from normality, you start learning, what is going on? So that's a hypothesis. And indeed, gravity is so crucial that whatever it takes when we go for a longer time in space, we have to have gravity.
I'm going to break in a bit. Thank you, Floris. Just to let you know, very shortly, I think we should start watching the spacecraft. It's now about 30 kilometers above the surface of the moon. It's going very quickly, 8,000 kilometers an hour. Hopefully it'll slow down. Just before we go any further, Simon, just a quick question. Simon, to you, Simon Feast, from the British Interplanetary Society. Do you think Flores has described the biology there, the medical implications? Do you think we will settle on the moon in our lifetime, or settle onto any celestial object, probably the moon or Mars? What's your position on that, Simon Feast?
Yeah, thanks. Good question. I think ultimately, yes. I think there are a huge number of driving forces to making us get into space and settle in space, be that, in a space colony or on a surface colony. So I think ultimately we can see, the ways in which we do that. I think that with the challenges are quite well understood as well. But there are obviously clear benefits to making it happen, and probably one of the most important is, I think, for humanity is the unity that it would bring everybody internationally. It would be, I think, obviously an international cooperation, I think, is necessary, but there are wider benefits for life on Earth as well. I think maybe there are clear technological challenges like radiation protection and human physiology, which we've just been talking about. But I think there are clear sort of goals that we want to achieve. Yeah, so I think the other sort of barriers, as I say, are quite well understood. For me, it's more about, providing a sustainable level of growth, economic growth, as well as technical innovation to get there. And there'll be an interesting departure point from where we are developing systems where we are dependent on Earth-based services and resources to larger structures and pieces of infrastructure that are supported by Earth-based resources, but also accessing space-based resources, I think, and then ultimately to be completely sustainable based on off-world resources. Now that might be quite far down in the future, but I think that's the interesting transition, and that will be the real marker of whether humanity is able to, independently live off world. But there's quite a strong vision, powerful vision there, and I think that is backed up by all the sort of solutions that we need to make it happen.
At any point, we might suddenly break off. I'll leave the team to decide when we need to follow the spacecraft's progress. It's at 25 kilometers, 8,000 kilometers per hour. So it does need to slow down at some point. You mentioned trade. Just one quick sentence. I see John Fine has joined us now, Trade and Commerce Chair. John, looks like you should meet with Simon Feast and do a deal. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Yeah, I would love to meet with him and do a deal if I could. That'd be awesome.
Everything.
I definitely agree with what he just said about space habitation and landing on a celestial body or putting people on like the moon or anything like that. And I agree that the biggest challenge right now is radiation exposure. But honestly, they've got a new technology out right now, some kind of foam they fill this foam with water that's looking really promising in providing that radiation protection that we're looking for. I was just listening to that the other day on NASA blog, but I'm excited about this landing. I'm really excited to see that Asgardia is going to be on the moon, even though it's digitally. And right now, everything is looking nominal. It's looking fantastic. I've been watching it on another screen, the actual stream that Firefly's putting out. But yeah, and okay.
Let's go. Can we patch into that? Let's see if we can watch this for a while. It is very exciting. So feel free to cut me off there, Rebecca, if you just want to try and stream that. My judgment is this would be quite a good time. It's getting very exciting, and we are 15 minutes from landing. I don't know if you can do a split screen, but otherwise, just feel free to bounce me out and put the stream on. It's 22 kilometers above the surface of the moon now. And it's slow. No, it's still doing 8,000 kilometers per hour, but I guess it can decelerate pretty quickly. It better do.
97%.
Rebecca, what do you want to do in terms of the feed?
Flight on ops.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Transition to descent critical. Also at this point,
I'm glad we're just responsible for patching into the feed rather than landing the thing.
starting with payload.
Go.
Oh,
Com.
things are happening now.
Software.
Yeah.
Go. Flight software.
Flight software's go.
ABI.
ABI is go.
They're doing the go no go at the moment.
Go.
FIDO.
Go.
Prop.
Go.
TCS.
Go.
Systems.
Go.
I'm watching this on the other screen, and it looks like it's a go for landing,
All consoles Blue Ghost lander is a go for power
which is quite
descent.
exciting.
And y'all heard it
Count
from
on
Charles.
ops. 3 minutes
20
remaining.
kilometers above the Earth. I'm just
We
wondering,
are go for the powered descent initiation. In the next
can you
15
see
minutes, we're gonna
this?
go
I'm
into
at
our
the moment
mission
just seeing
operations
colleagues
center as
here.
the team monitors the
Are
vehicle
we seeing
and prepares
this
for that final descent.
on our feed at the moment? Rebecca?
Yes, on the YouTube feed, so like in SL, it's the other feed, so that's what I have up. So that's
Okay,
what we're seeing on our screen.
Okay, so it is going out on our feed at the moment. Okay. Rebecca, can people hear us? In which case I'll stop talking.
Trajectory getting ready to
Okay,
into that.
I'm going to stop talking while we listen to
So,
this.
like we said before, that's
this
free
happening. I'm going to
driving
just
simulation
hand over this
on your screen.
to the experts, and then we'll talk after the landing, if that's okay.
In the
Lena, do you agree?
And that blue vector there is a
We are go to listen.
And we see those foot pads as well as all of the engines in this image. So really exciting to see our MOC, our Mission Operations Center, as well as that data-driven telemetry. All right, if you are
All
just
count on ops. 2 minutes remaining to power descent connection.
with that 2-minute call out, if you are just joining us, this is the NASA Firefly joint broadcast for Blue Ghost Mission 1 as part of the agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative. We are standing by as PDI process and procedures do continue. Just as a reminder to those of you who are tuning in, the graphic visualization that we do see is has about a 15-second delay, and we did cover that at the top of our broadcast. So just as a reminder, there is that 15-second delay. So we may hear that call for landing before the data does get there, but we would like to point that out and keep that in mind as we continue to follow along.
That last call out you heard was propellant settling, so we actually use these ACS thrusters that will
60 seconds to PDI.
that'll help settle that propellant, so the propellant's where it's needed to in that fluid system for ignition.
So exciting.
Fun fact, we actually use those ACS thrusters on our Alpha launch vehicle as well.
You know all about propulsion and engines. It's fascinating. I'm learning so much today.
30 seconds to PDI.
And there you see a couple folks on console. So that is Raj and Will Adams. So they are supporting on TCS and prop. So propulsion and thermal control systems.
10 seconds to PDI.
Let's stand by and tune in to Mission
7,
Ops.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So the lander is performing that 9-minute powered descent initiation using all of its engines to reduce. And you can see that on the simulation right there with
Main
the
engine
engines
on.
going. Main engine is on. We see that
Descent critical.
call
All
outs going
consoles
on.
flight on ops and abort is no longer possible.
Right, teams have been practicing for this moment, and we see that taking place right now. And this is where the lander is positioning itself closer and
Ignition
closer.
temperatures nominal.
Nominal callouts.
Guidance mode D'Souza. 48.1 confirm.
And we heard that D'Souza guidance.
Attitude and rate errors look like they converge back to nominal after the transition.
Current draw is nominal. Tank pressure is stable, prop is nominal.
And remember, this burn lasts
VNS is stable, nominal.
about 9 minutes.
Navigation filter is well behaved.
We love when things are well behaved.
Exactly.
We just heard the call. That comm is stable as well.
Comms link is stable.
It's during this burn where we were going
Volcan and ops, 9 minutes remaining to pitch over. 455 kilometers south of the target, 16 kilometers above it.
We're reducing our velocity down to 40 meters per second in this burn. And so on that gauge, what you'll be looking for is about 144 kilometers per hour.
And just as folks are tuning in right now, our PDI is actually that braking burn.
Exactly.
So we're continuing to slow our speed down and bring the vehicle from a horizontal configuration or horizontal orbit into a we're pitching over the lander into a vertical configuration.
Exactly. All of our RCS engines are firing at a mid to high throttle here in the anti-velocity direction to slow us down. We're shedding all of that horizontal velocity like you're saying.
Eight minutes remaining to pitch over. 370 kilometers south of the target, 17 kilometers up.
So 1 minute completed of that 9-minute braking burn.
Attitude and rate errors remain nominal.
Volcan and ops, VNS is passing over a shadow.
And so what you guys see on the screen here is that graph taking us through all of the different phases into landing. We are in that power descent initiation.
VNS is past the shadow and returning to lower covariance.
Main engine temperatures continue to rise nominally.
How are you feeling?
Excited, nervous, anxious. Lots of feelings.
7 minutes to pitch over. 290 kilometers south, 16 kilometers up.
GNC flight and ops, verify 48.2 when ready.
Wilco.
So we are seeing our various folks in the Mission Operations Center that are continuing to follow along during this braking burn called Power Descent Initiation, or PDI. All operations continue.
Engines trimming out, target achievable, 48.2 confirm.
Batteries at 92%.
In the front left of the room there, where the camera's pointing, you're going to see that's 100% of those teammates with us from ASI and Space NG. So you're seeing folks from ASI, GNC1, GNC2, FIDO. You got Space NG with Vision Navigation Systems.
6 minutes remaining until pitch over. 222 kilometers south, 15 kilometers up.
All right, we can hear that number.
VNS is crossing over the final ridge as we enter the Marcrisium.
We're getting closer and closer to our landing site, Mare Crisium, on the northeast part of the moon, on the side that faces us here on Earth. Now there is a NASA console position as well.
That's right. They're on the opposite side of the room, probably in the corner the camera can't see right here.
And that's to conduct all of the 10 payload surface operations over the course of the next 14 Earth days or 1
If you've just joined us, you're watching Asgardia, the space nation, watching the final descent of Firefly, which contains Asgardia's national symbols. I won't speak much more now until after the landing, so let's just see how it goes.
I remember interviewing her for our podcast, and she was phenomenal. She knows these payloads like the back of her hand.
5 minutes remaining until pitch over. 140 kilometers south, 13 kilometers up.
So Farah's there tracking the health of the payloads and making sure everything is performing as expected.
Absolutely. Yep. And we actually have 3 payloads on site for landing. We have EDS, Lister, LPV. The rest will be remote.
So 3 out of the 10 payload teams are currently near the Mission Operations Center on site, and the remainders have their own control centers in other locations.
And so this is a primary operations
VNS is
center.
seeing drops to validate.
They
back to
actually,
global.
there's some backup rooms upstairs too for secondary, tertiary, and extra data review. Eyes up there.
So you talked about
4 minutes remaining to pitch over. 110 kilometers south, 10 kilometers up.
And on the screen right now, you see Joseph Marlin and Will Coogan. These are our CEs, our chief engineers. A fun fact, Will Coogan actually used to be a carpenter before he went back to school for his PhD.
That we're in validate, so we're not global positioning.
I think having all these varying backgrounds really helps you in your current work. So it's really impressive to see this team coming together. And not only are we seeing the teams in the room, but there are folks that are in back rooms, as you mentioned, that are also supporting this mission
Batteries
today.
at 90%.
Exactly.
So we see that speed has come down.
VNS now sees we're back in global generating solutions again.
That's 7 kilometers from the surface. That braking burn continues.
Falcon and Ops, 3 minutes remaining until pitch over. 67 kilometers south, 7 kilometers up.
Getting closer and closer to that lunar surface.
Still nominal.
Attitude and body rate errors still nominal.
Like we were saying before, the Fireflies, we don't sit still in one position, one role too long, and so we do for sure have a lot of cross-functional teams here.
And there we have our flight director back, tracking this mission. I'm appreciating the call-outs. They're easing my nerves a little bit right now, too. So that spacecraft, as you can see on the graph right now, is getting ready to continue that braking burn and that pitch over to put it in that
VNS
vertical.
is reporting position covariance below 25 meters.
Two minutes remaining to pitch over. 35 kilometers south, 4 kilometers up.
We are standing by for continuation of that powered descent initiation or braking burn. This is where all engines are firing to pitch
GNC
over.
flight on ops, verify 48.3 when ready.
That was Charles. Do you know what seat's missing, what subsystem?
What are we missing?
Structures.
Flight laser rangefinder has measurements.
VNS reports position covariance at 10 meters.
1 minute remaining until pitch over. 13 kilometers south, 2 kilometers up.
We'll actually add in that mechanisms and structures seat
Power
in
is nominal.
right after landing. Alex Kaplan is our engineer there, and he's designed all 3 mechanisms on board the lander that he helped also build and test. Those subsystems become much more prominent after landing, so we'll see him come in later.
So we do see that graphic come up we talked about a little later with the lander footpad, so our contact legs will turn.
VNS position covariance below 5 meters.
30 seconds remaining to pitch over. 4 kilometers south, 900 meters up.
So those will turn blue once we've confirmed some level of contact. And we'll continue to track as we get closer and closer to the lunar surface over the course of the completion of this PDI. You can see the graphic on the screen demonstrating that Blue Ghost is getting into that vertical configuration and doing that pitch over as expected.
And engine off. Terminal guidance. 500 meters up.
Batteries at 87%.
All right, from here on out, it is just going to be those Spectre
400
engines.
meters.
Now, just as a reminder, those Spectra engines that we see firing right now on our
GNC
screen,
and VNS flight on ops, verify 49.2 when ready.
they are doing those pulses.
VNS is in relative.
260 meters up.
First redirect occurred, 98 meters from original target.
1 minute remaining in flight.
The vehicle is converged on its commanded descent profile.
All right, so we are in that autonomous phase that you had described to us. She is ready and has been preparing for this.
You're going to hear a lot of call-outs here about vision navigation solutions, laser
Seconds remaining in
rangefinder,
terminal. 100 meters up.
And let's
health
just
systems.
Navigation filter is still healthy.
Second hazard avoidance occurred, 5 meters from previous target.
50 meters up. 30 seconds remaining in flight.
Payload verify 49.4.
Copy. Verified.
11 meters up. Vehicle in shutdown.
3 contact sensors tripped.
Engine shutdown confirmed.
Ours nominal vehicle is charging.
IMU reports lunar gravity and it is stable.
Alcon, Chief Engineer on Ops. Y'all select the landing. We're on the moon.
Aerospace just became the first commercial company in history to complete a fully successful moon landing. Congratulations to the entire team. This is such an incredible feat for Firefly, NASA, our nation, and the world as we pave the way for a lasting lunar presence.
Thank you very much, Firefly. Yeah, Asgardia has landed. And that is quite a momentous occasion. Cheryl, you made this happen for us. Over to you.
Well, wow. I'm a little speechless at this point. It's amazing. You know, I'm old enough to have watched the first moon landing, and it's just incredible to watch a lunar landing in the modern day like this. It's really fantastic. Very moving. Yeah, I'm very moved. Yes, indeed.
It is a moving moment, hugely moving. For the first time, Asgardia is actually on another celestial body. Really quite remarkable. Cheryl, you had the vision to get us onto that, thanks to Dr. Asher Bailey creating Asgardia in the first place. Lena?
Very rare occasion when I don't have much to say, guys. So as a team, we're getting further and further. So I can only be grateful to be Asgardia Rebecca, you're unmuted. Rebecca, Asgardia Space Nation TV. So the team who made it work, the team who arranges this broadcast, it will be too pompous to quote the small step and the big step.
What you have now.
Huge.
But it's
I
a,
have.
it's an important step for us and as in Asgardia, and it's been an honor and privilege to be able to participate even in this small way, this very important symbolic way. It's one step closer to one humanity, one unity.
Simon Feast has to go in a moment. I suggest we broadcast till 0900 GMT because I think there's quite a lot of excitement here. And it's not often we land Asgardia's national symbols and arts on the moon. So I would suggest to the team, let's put the hard stop 0900 GMT, which is in 20 minutes. Simon Feast, we've already agreed you'll meet with myself and Cheryl Gallagher when she arrives later on this month here in, I was going to say on the moon, but I mean London, really. Your views, Simon, this is after all, in a way, what the British Interplanetary Society was set up to promote in 1933.
Yeah, this sort of activity, it's astonishing, and I think it's a tremendous step forwards for humanity. And I think seeing commercial landers and also, huge congratulations, for your involvement as well. I think that's that's a fantastic success story. So and it's a real honor to join you today to witness this, with you. So it's incredible, and I think we just need more successes. I think space exploration is it can be very challenging, very costly, and we learn the difficulties the hard way sometimes. But these sorts of successes really inspire us all, and I think and it creates such a huge draw. So like all of you, I'm absolutely sort of in awe of what's just happened. So let's look to the future and see more successes coming our way.
Some of the people that you're meeting today might join Firefly on the moon sometime, but you've got something to tell them today now. Why they should join Asgardia and the British Interplanetary Society. We will see you in a couple of weeks with Cheryl then. I will let you go, but we're going to stay. Thank you, Simon Feast from the British Interplanetary Society. Very grateful for our special guest. This, to quote Casablanca, this could be the beginning of a beautiful relationship with Simon Feast. I'm going to now just open this to everybody, really. I think that Luca and Floris might want to say something. Luca, let's start with you.
Well, what can be said? This is one of the many things that one scientist like me hopes to see in life, because it's a very, very nice. Actually, I have to say that if you look on Wikipedia, the list of the landing missions to the moon, most of them are in red, meaning that they failed. So it's actually a very nice endeavor that this one went fortunately very well, and it's actually impressive that yes, it's successful. And as I said, I'm very, very also excited by the payload that it's carrying, the science payload that it's carrying. And I was mentioning before, there's something about radiation protection. I think there is one of the instruments is a self-fixing computer or chip from a computer that needs to, let's say, survive radiation. It's an experiment to see how good they can self repair after radiation damage. So it's very, very exciting. The science that will come from it, besides the very landing of it, of course. And yes, and I was thinking about the pyramid with the future archaeologists' memorabilia to be found. One thing that I was thinking is that it's going to be much harder for them to decipher whatever digital content is there than it is hard for us to decipher Egyptian papyrus or something like that. So I think it's going to be a very, very big task for the future generations when they find it like archaeologically, and that would be very nice. So yeah, very excited and very, very nice feeling.
Floris?
Well, what I think is crucial in this moment of history is the fact that if a commercial company by itself, I mean, not like government sponsored or, I mean, just really by private enterprise, if they succeed in doing this, it is making the gap between what we want and what we can do so much smaller. And it means that the knowledge will be spread much more than before, because now it's just a question of combining the different players, but it's not purely government driven. And I think that is a very important step. So within the next couple of years, I think there will be an exponential growth in exploration of space, which actually illustrates the need of a holistic approach, which actually Asgardia is indeed looking at all different characteristics, also the legal characteristics, the monetary, the trade, etc. So the vehicle of exploring space becomes much more approachable and realistic, and it's not all on paper or in dreams or science fiction books. It's happening, and we are witnessing that, and I think that's a huge step which has been made. So yeah, wonderful.
I want to thank you, Floris. I want to comment about Ugo Aiden. Cheryl Gallagher mentioned him before. Ugo is the chair of our culture committee, and he has sent me a great message. Thank you very much, Lembit. Well, I did nothing. Cheryl and Dr. Asher Bailey need the thanks, not me. And Ugo adds, my daughters and I are watching you. Well, we're proud that, Ugo, your work is also up there. You're one of the pioneers. As Luca said before, it might be more difficult, especially if the hard drive fails like mine did on my computer 2 weeks ago. But I'm sure that we now have a legacy, and this will be something of an historical site. That's one thing to think about. What we observed there has established what will be a museum or historical site on the moon because of its significance. I won't repeat what's been said already. Let me hand to Lena. It is actually a really moving moment. Caroline Lockhart said the same thing just now. And I think I was unexpectedly moved by that. But it was perhaps the relief to an extent as well. But Asgardia is on the moon, Lena.
Yeah, and we are all over the moon with Asgardia being on the moon. Indeed, it's a bit of a peace of mind, of course, because the landing is unmanned, uncrewed. And that one thing which makes it a little bit easier when you watch it. I've observed many human launches in my life, and there I tell you, the older I got, the harder it is to watch people being launched somehow and people being docked to the ISS, because you know the people in person, and every time it's part of your life and of your heart who is going to space. And yes, they are all qualified professionals, and it's the adults who made responsible decisions of their own choice. But at some stage during my work at ESA, I stopped watching crewed launches because I was so worried if something can go wrong. I know it's just personal, but hey, that's what such moments are for, that we can afford to be emotional and personal also in public. And so for me personally, it is easier to watch uncrewed vehicles launching, landing, performing critical operations. And yet, indeed, I fully share Lambert's sentiment. When things like that happen, it changes everything. It makes you understand why you're in this business your whole life. I remember at some point a person who was undergoing some serious personal transformation was sharing with me his experiences, and in a way that it's been a long step towards something, and all of a sudden it's a small thing. It's private. I will not disclose the details. And all of a sudden, it's a person in the space industry, and all of a sudden, a launch metaphor made it so clear for both of us as we were chatting privately. I said, listen, when you work towards a launch, you work in a huge team with many professionals, and just the launch, it's a fraction of a moment. It's a liftoff, and it's a next stage. So you're never going to say that just launching is a tiny moment and it's nothing and it's past. You will say that it's a culmination, it's a pinnacle, it's something, it's a cherry on top of the cake, but you can use any expression, any idiom, but it's a fraction of a moment. But this fraction symbolizes the magnificence, the whole purpose. So no matter it's not the duration, it's the meaning of this happening. So every time there is a launch, every time there is a docking, every time there is a landing, it's a tiny step for a man. You cannot go away from that classic expression by now. It's tiny in its physical dimension because we're so bound by our earth habits. I would not call them limitations, but they are our conditions. We are so attached to our normalcy, and good so, it makes us normal and reasonably healthy, is that we tend to take the fraction of a moment as a measurable miniature. But in reality, it's so significant that I think that when it happens, I'm not always able to grasp what it would mean in the eternity, what it would mean in the continuity. So I believe we now have indeed joined and experienced together one of those tiny fractions of the moments which are a pivotal point. It's in a way almost a butterfly swinging its wings. It's so tiny in terms of how it's occurring. It's just a touchdown, and a vehicle touched down the moon surface. And not only, of course, it added to the significance of the whole human space exploration program, but also the very fact that it's there and what it carries and what impact it would have, what impact the results of the science program would have. Our contribution is symbolic, but also it carries tremendous scientific program, which would have impact, which we can only marginally foresee because we don't know the outcomes, of course. And the combination of this whole thing, the possibility to be part of it, it's really, it's humbling to be part of this whole endeavor. And we together as a team, I know that the media team who is working with Asgardia has taken tons of screens of our event. There will be a lot of news coverage. It will be all forever on asgardia.space website. So I can only say that I'm just humbled to be part of this whole thing. I believe that colleagues are sharing the sentiment. So if somebody else wants to say a few words.
Absolutely. Just let me thank you, Lena. Lena's our Prime Minister in Asgardia. Rebecca Berg tells me that there are many congratulations to Asgardia on the YouTube chat. Thank you for everybody who's sending us good wishes. We, of course, congratulate and thank Firefly for a successful landing. There is no doubt that is a nerve-wracking experience. Also, it's just tremendous to know that the spacecraft is there. I think it's got 14 days of active service. Who knows how long it will be? In fact, but it has achieved its mission objective of landing, and that is very exciting. Really very exciting. Sarah, did you want to say something? And then we'll ask John how he's going to turn this into a profit for Asgardia. Sarah, how does it compare to the eclipse?
Not gonna lie, this the eclipse was amazing, but this, like, it really struck me at my core. And one of the reasons that I love Asgardia, like, is just that we come together from all over the world with a common mission and a common belief, and a desire to do good and do well, and to, help us reach the stars. And watching, so I still have the feed on, like, you can see it, like, on my other monitor. Just watching everybody, again, just, by appearances from all over the world coming together for just such a very special mission objective, just lets me know that we're absolutely on the right track. And there's obviously millions of people around the world who share our passion. And thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Dr. Asher Bailey, for helping us be a part of tonight. It was really moving, and thank you for allowing me to share in this.
Thank you so much. And John, not far away from Sarah, and united with all of us at this historic moment. Very tempting to start using cliches, but it's hard to think of what else to say, John.
Well, one thing I want to say is look how far we've come. I want to give Cheryl a big hug, a big hug, and reminder, reminder of that conversation we had long time ago when you had all them doubts and everything, and look how far we've come. I mean, this is amazing. And Asgardia is on the moon. Our symbols are on the moon, and it is very symbolic, but it's just wonderful to think about. We're on the moon, and also, like the Prime Minister said, that particular lander has a slew of experiments on it that is going to find out so much stuff. And it's actually part of NASA's Artemis mission. But so that's exciting too for me, because I've been tracking it the whole time. And there's 2 more landings coming up this week, 2 very important landings. So this is mankind, or humankind, humankind moving forward, and in space, and it's just amazing. It shows the drive that humans have to be in space, and it's amazing. I'm excited. Even though I'm really tired right now, because it's really early in the morning, and I got to get up at 8 o'clock. But I'm good to go.
But thank you, John. Well, you might want to stay for a few more minutes. We're waiting to see if there'll be space shots, space photos. There's some talk about the cameras maybe coming on. We'll stay with us for a little longer. Jakob is very pleased, as am I. Simon Feast, the chief executive of the British Interplanetary Society, says, thank you for the invitation to join you today. I look forward to connecting with Asgardia again very soon. That's a big development, actually. I've been working informally with Simon Feast for quite a while. We now will have a meeting when Cheryl comes over. That's guaranteed. Michael Chirina's had to go. He's very positive about it. Ivan Russell says, oh ho, Michael. And of course, Ivan Russell invented Asgardia's first word, oh ho. One humanity, one unity. Cheryl's thanking Rebecca and Christina for the huge effort. I know Rebecca's not too well, but you've done a great job. You only have to stick with it for another 10 minutes or so. And Jennifer, rather than me reading it out, why didn't you say it? What do you put in the chat?
Oh, I said I wanted to thank everyone who made this happen and supported us for us to be able to go live like this. It's always such a big effort, and we all came together with professional and it's the middle of the night, and this is not easy to do. And I just want to give y'all a big kudos and a big hug because it went really, really well. And it looks really, really great from the ground, even the digital ground in the embassy.
Thank you, Jennifer. You've created a whole world where we do have status, and that's a real thing that I think we can promote even more. It says that we're waiting for the first lunar image. I think we should stay for the first lunar image, and then finish just after that. I think it'll be exciting to see the moon, and it must be just minutes away now. If that's okay with everybody, we'll carry on in that way. Ivan, you're looking very happy. Ivan Russell.
He's been smiling all night.
Indeed. Well, that's a great achievement. And I'm really glad that we made it. We made it all the way to the moon. And even though in symbolic way, we have our digital assets now set on the moon, and it's part of a larger project for Asgardia. I know it's just the beginning, so I'm very excited to see what's next.
Well, what's next is the highway to the stars, Dan. Maybe this deserves a program.
I was just about to actually suggest that we do a show about with all the key players about this event, precisely to mark the importance of such an event in the history of Asgardia and in the history of humankind. And yes, we should catch up with that and do a fine, nice episode with Cheryl, with ourselves, and with Lena, so we could actually pinpoint the importance of this event. Use maybe footage. By then we will get probably some footage from the actual moon landing, and we could do a very nice episode to mark the historical moment we are living today.
I totally agree with you, and I have to say it might be possible for you to have a program with Simon Feast as well. We can put that to him. A great place to film that would actually potentially be at the British Interplanetary Society. So quite a lot of good things have happened today. Jakob looks like he's staring at the moon. I could see you were moved. I was unexpectedly moved. I should explain that my grandfather was involved in the Apollo moon landings, and so I grew up with this. One of my earliest memories is watching the Apollo spacecraft splashing down, and I must have been not more than 5 years old when I first saw that. It's one of my earliest really clear memories. Jakob, you might be one step closer to your dream of space habitation.
Yes, yeah, I was just looking at the live image. At very first, at the moment of landing, it only had one of the 4 legs being green, as in contact with the soil, and they now have all 4 green, which makes me happy. I'm a Minister of Manufacturing, so I tend to look at things a bit more in a technical way. And exactly as what you said, people might see that I'm currently lying down. I'm in a reclining wheelchair, electric wheelchair, and one of my personal objectives is to emigrate to space in 15 years from now. And this commercial landing is a very good step in that direction. So I'm very, very happy. Thank you.
Well, we'll make sure that you've got a reservation. I don't want to be first, by the way. I'm happy to be second or third, but I don't really want to be first. And I think probably we will have commercial airships going across the Atlantic. I've already got a deal with a friend of mine, Sean Ryder, who's actually a musician, that will be on the second trip. You can be on the first. That's fine with me. I think we should stick around for a little longer to see that they seem to be promising us a picture from the moon. Let's just see. The latest we'll go to is very latest is 9:15. But I just make it, even if we haven't got a picture, then I think we should finish. But let's I know Rebecca and Hot well, but today is quite a momentous day. So if we can stay for another 10 to 15 minutes, I think that might be a good idea. Cheryl, I'll give you the very last word at the end, but briefly, can you tell us about the next Firefly that we're interested in?
Actually, yeah. So our relationship is not, our relationship is with LifeShip and with Copernic Space, and it's by their generously hosting us that we are having this happen today. Both Copernic Space and LifeShip have other launches scheduled, or are scheduled onto other launches. They're for all different launch systems and purveyors. They're not all with SpaceX even. They're not all with NASA, and that is a very dynamic space, because very rapidly there is a as we go up more frequently, the commercial aspects are going to be coming to the fore, as well as the scientific exploration and all the important discoveries. And so even our assets, it's one of those complicated things, but the story does not stop here with what just happened just now with the national symbols, because of course they're in digital form. And the reason I refer to them as assets is because they're literally have become space assets. And as we go forward, there's an opportunity to be able to create, as we're creating a space market, and this is main focus of Copernic Space, is shaping that space economy and what can happen with assets that go to the moon. So we look forward to that. And of course, yeah, this is just the beginning. And if I do making one remark of what I observe is these kinds of events as a culture, as our Asgardian culture, this is a big moment for us, but it's also a big moment for our whole planet and everyone on it. And what I love about these kinds of events is that for the period of time that we're all together all over the world, we are all united in wanting success for our future, and having the direction all focused in one way and have it be such a positive thing, especially in turbulent times, is huge. It's almost as important as our symbolic gesture. It's in fact part of our symbolic gesture as we aspire to achieve our overall mission of a safe, sustainable existence in space.
Thank you so much. I know that many of you need to go. Well, we will close this at 9:15, even if we haven't got the picture, or before then.
I'd personally like to see the view.
I'd like to see the view as well, actually. Let me be honest with you. Oh, there we are. I think we've got a picture now. I'm not sure if we are streaming that picture, but it looks to me that there's a picture from the moon now. Are we able to, are we streaming it? So there we have a picture of the moon, and I believe probably a part of the spacecraft too. That's quite exciting. Makes it very real. And no doubt there'll be other shots coming in as well.
Yeah, it appears that it's kicked up quite a bit of
dust,
ash and dust.
I think what's probably happening there is it's probably the sunlight on the lens. I'm guessing that's what it is. They'll probably get other great pictures, but this is the first lunar image, which is so exciting. Hard to put into words what a big day this is really for Asgardia. and hopefully our head of nation, Dr. Asher Bailey, will be well pleased with this as well. Well, we will now close in 7 minutes for sure. Now, that feels like a rite of passage. Seeing that picture, Sarah.
My question is just for Cheryl. With this project moving forward, how can Asgardians and those who are watching, how can they get involved?
Well, I do believe that, well, first of all, going to copernicspace.com and lifeship.com is important for filling in the background of what how this has come to be and what their missions are. LifeShip is very much involved in that the strong cultural preservation of humanity going forward and bringing our planetary existence to the stars, right? In whatever form that happens to take. And the complexity and the innovation that's going to come now that we've reached this spot is it's already been accelerating at a huge rate, and now it's just like another blast off into other possibilities. And so we'll be exploring where we can possibly go from here as we go forward and as we discover more opportunities to participate. With regard to Asgardians, I think that in the Asgardia Business Hub, both LifeShip and Copernic Space are there, and you can go through there and explore how each individual here could possibly participate in sending something or establishing a business or, coming through and I'm sorry, I'm not being extremely clear, but it's because I can see the whole big picture. I'm someone who sees the whole flow chart all the way to the end, and it's hard to explain because it's just so vast and diverse and interesting, and there's so much possibility. So, but for individuals, please come to asgardia.space, discover what we're about. And then if you go to the Business Hub, you can discover those two businesses and see how each individual in your own life can dedicate something to the future of humanity in space.
Thank you very much indeed, Cheryl. Uga says Star Shop and reminds us that you can buy mission patches from Star Shop. You can download them virtually also. And Ariadne says, we are on the moon. Ariadne Gallardo, absolutely right. I think that everyone has had their chance to say what they wanted to say. So I think we're going to conclude. And
I want to say one more
Lena.
thing.
Go ahead, Lena.
It's today's our Chairs of Parliament Lambert topic 60th birthday, and it's a man who dedicated his life one way or another throughout his whole career to supporting space exploration. So it can't be, if you planned it, you couldn't make it. It's for a reason, I believe, that universe made it that way. So I suggest that actually before we close the session, we all wish Lambert a very happy birthday. And I personally can't be more pleased than to observe that this historical event took place on Lambert's birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Lambert.
Thank you very much indeed.
Best wishes.
I am.
Happy birthday.
I was already moved. I'm too soft for this job. Thank you so much. And I have to say that serendipity is not lost on me. It seemed to me a remarkable thing when I woke up at 5 a.m. thinking, this is my 60th year. And as Jakob Mulder, my 60th turn of orbit around the Earth. What better dream could there be than to awake and watch the successful landing for all mankind of a spacecraft that contains the national symbols of an optimistic society that takes peace, not war, to the moon and beyond. And I am very moved. I'm partly moved because I'm 60, but mainly moved because to share it with you and with all of our supporters and viewers around the world is
Not
an
only you watched it, you hosted the broadcast of it by the first space nation in the world.
And if that makes a contribution to inspire others to join us, then it'll be my honor to have played my part and to be and celebrate this with all of you. I don't think there's much else to say. I shall sit here and contemplate these momentous occasions and your kindness as well. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing my birthday. Thank you to that great Mission Control for giving me this wonderful present, and to our friends here, and to Dr. Asher Bailey, who made all this possible by having the vision, which Cheryl has run with and flown us to the moon with. I simply say it's a birthday for me, and it is a coming of age for Asgardia. If you'd like to know more, then go to Asgardia Space Nation. Do join us. As a resident, it's not expensive, and then you can be part of creating a better world and a peaceful world off Earth. We're going to finish the recording now. I hope you will have a wonderful day. It's going to be a wonderful year. And remember, this is, as Cheryl said, just the beginning, because the next such launch doesn't just take our national symbols, it takes a part of us literally to the moon and beyond. You've been watching a great program. We thank our team, especially Christina and Rebecca. Get well soon, Rebecca. Hopefully you've been lifted in spirit by what you've seen. And with that, we shall close our recording. Thank you very much indeed. One humanity, one unity, and we'll see you the next time.